I'm going to say something you might not like, but you need to hear it. If you keep being soft, the world will eat you alive. And I'm not talking about kindness, compassion, or having a good heart. I'm talking about the softness that makes you afraid to speak up, afraid to stand up, afraid to protect yourself, afraid to claim the life you deserve. When I worked as a U.S. Secret Service agent, nobody cared that I was a woman. Nobody lowered the standard for me. I had to run the same miles, carry the same gear, qualify with the same weapons, protect the same high-level targets as the men next to me. Do you think criminals, threats, dangerous people gave me a break because I was female? Absolutely not. They would have exploited any sign of weakness. The world will not always meet you with fairness or gentleness. People will test you, push you, and see how far they can go. And if you let your boundaries slide, they will slide right over you. I'm not telling you to be cold or cruel. I'm telling you to be strong and kind, not soft and submissive. Strength isn't shouting or dominating. Strength is knowing exactly who you are, knowing your worth, and refusing to compromise it for anyone. Train your mind the way an athlete trains their body. Ask yourself, do I let fear control my choices? Do I avoid confrontation because I don't want to cause a scene? Do I tolerate disrespect just to keep the peace? If you answered yes to any of those, you are giving away your power. And once you give it away, it's hard to get it back. People respect what they cannot easily control. When you set standards and enforce them, you earn respect. Not everyone will like you, and you don't need everyone to like you. You need to like yourself when you look in the mirror. Resilience is built every time you push through fear, every time you say no when someone crosses a line, every time you refuse to settle. Being a soft woman leaves you dependent on others to protect you, speak for you, decide for you. Being a strong woman makes you your own protector, your own advocate, your own decision maker. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop letting people talk over you. Stop saying yes when you mean no. Stand tall even when your voice shakes. Never let kindness be mistaken for weakness. You can be warm and still unshakable. You can be empathetic and still a force no one dares to push around. You can be feminine and still formidable. The world doesn't need more soft women who fold under pressure. It needs women who guard their value fiercely, who know exactly who they are, and who never let anyone decide that for them. Stop being soft. Start being strong. Watch your life change. Softness invites exploitation. Strength commands respect. That's a truth that a lot of people don't want to admit because it forces them to look at uncomfortable reality of human behavior. The moment someone senses you won't push back, you become a target. It might not always be in an obvious, physical way. Sometimes it's emotional manipulation, subtle disrespect, or people constantly dumping their problems on you because they know you won't say no. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about understanding that human nature will test limits. And if your limits aren't there or they aren't firm, people will take as much as they can. When I worked in the Secret Service, the concept of weakness was not an abstract theory. It was something that could cost lives. We didn't have the luxury of being unprepared, uncertain, or indecisive. The people we protected were targets, and we knew threats were always looking for an opportunity. Strength, both mental and physical, was our shield. Criminals, aggressors, anyone with bad intentions, they don't look for the toughest opponent. They look for the easiest one. That's how predators operate in nature and in life. If you present yourself as someone who won't fight, won't speak up, won't resist, you're essentially putting out a welcome sign for exploitation. Strength doesn't mean you have to be intimidating in every interaction. It's about creating an internal presence that people recognize even before you speak. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you make eye contact, the way your voice doesn't tremble when you say no. People can feel when someone has a strong backbone, and they can also sense when someone is hesitant, unsure, or desperate for approval. That's the difference between commanding respect and inviting exploitation. Respect is earned not because you demand it loudly, but because you make it clear through your actions and your boundaries that you won't be taken advantage of. Think about your own life. Where have you allowed softness to put you in a weaker position? Maybe you stayed quiet when someone made a disrespectful comment. Maybe you said yes to something that drained you because you didn't want to upset anyone. Maybe you stayed in a relationship or friendship that chipped away at your confidence because you were afraid of being alone. Every one of those situations sends the same signal that your comfort, safety, and self-worth are negotiable. And once people learn they can negotiate your worth, they'll keep trying to lower the price. Commanding respect requires consistency. You can't hold firm one day and then let things slide the next. People will remember the day you caved, not the day you stood strong. It's not enough to simply declare that you're strong. You have to show it every time a boundary is tested. This is why discipline matters. Just like you train your body to be physically capable, you have to train your mind to respond with strength under pressure. That means practicing saying no without guilt. It means confronting situations you'd rather avoid. It means learning to tolerate discomfort instead of bending just to make things easier in the moment. Some people will try to convince you that being soft is the same as being kind. That's not true. Softness without strength is passivity, and passivity invites disrespect. You can be deeply compassionate and still be immovable when it comes to your principles. In fact, the strongest people I've met, in law enforcement, in business, in life, are often the most compassionate, but their kindness is backed by an unshakable core. They will help you, protect you, and give generously, but the moment you try to exploit that, the door closes. That's the model you want to follow. It's also important to understand that strength is not about reacting with aggression. Strength is about control. The person who controls themselves then controls the situation. If someone insults you, strength isn't screaming back. It's holding your ground without losing composure. If someone tries to manipulate you, strength is calmly calling it out and refusing to play the game. This control communicates a message. You can't rattle me, and you can't move me off my position. That's what makes people think twice before trying again. When you begin to operate from a place of strength, the dynamics around you change. People start treating you differently because they sense the shift. The ones who only valued you for what they could take from you might distance themselves. Let them. That's not loss, that's clarity. The ones who respect you will adapt to your standards, and your relationships will become healthier. You'll notice fewer conflicts, not because you've become softer, but because people know you won't tolerate unnecessary drama. Strength also builds self-respect, and that's the foundation for how others will treat you. If you respect yourself enough to walk away from disrespect, to refuse exploitation, to demand better for yourself, people will either rise to meet you or remove themselves from your life. Both outcomes are wins. The alternative is living in a constant state of frustration, wondering why people keep taking advantage of you without ever realizing that you've been teaching them how to treat you all along. Softness might make you agreeable in the short term, but it costs you long-term peace, dignity, and freedom. Strength may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent years avoiding confrontation, but it pays off in security, respect, and control over your own life. You can decide right now to stop sending the signal that you're easy to push, easy to sway, easy to control. You can decide to project strength. Quietly, consistently, and without apology, so that the people who approach you know exactly where you stand. And when they know that, they know better than to test you. Strength is quiet confidence, not aggression. Many people misunderstand what true strength looks like. They picture someone loud, dominant, always ready to argue, and always needing to prove themselves. That's not strength. That's insecurity disguised as toughness. Real strength is calm. It's measured. It's the person who doesn't need to announce their power because it's obvious in the way they carry themselves. They don't need to intimidate because they know they can handle whatever comes their way. They don't need to win every battle because they choose the battles worth fighting. When I was in the Secret Service, I worked alongside people who could dismantle a threat in seconds, yet most of them weren't the ones talking the loudest or trying to look intimidating. They were steady, focused, and completely in control. You could feel their presence without them having to say a word. That's because real confidence doesn't need external validation. It's rooted in preparation, discipline, and self-respect. When you've put in the work to know your skills, understand your environment, and control your emotions, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You already know where you stand. Aggression, on the other hand, is often a mask. People who constantly need to prove they're tough are usually trying to cover up fear or insecurity. They think raising their voice or dominating others will make them appear strong, but in reality, it signals they can be provoked easily. If someone can push your buttons that quickly you're not in control, they are. True strength is the opposite. It's the ability to stay composed under pressure, to respond instead of react, and to make decisions based on strategy instead of impulse. Quiet confidence comes from competence. You can't fake it for long. If you want to exude real strength, you have to build it from the inside out. That means developing your skills, sharpening your mind, and knowing your limits and capabilities. When you have a strong foundation, you no longer need to shout for respect. People sense it. They see it in your posture, in your tone, in the way you approach challenges. Think about the people you respect the most. Chances are it's not the loudest person in the room. It's the one who listens more than they speak, who acts with intention, and who doesn't get pulled into unnecessary conflicts. That's because quiet confidence creates trust. People know that if you're not easily rattled, you're someone they can rely on. In high-pressure situations, the loud, aggressive person burns out fast. The steady, confident person endures. Another reason quiet confidence is so powerful is that it leaves people guessing. When you're aggressive, everyone can see your emotions and read your reactions. You become predictable. But when you stay calm and measured, people can't figure out your next move. That uncertainty keeps them from underestimating you or trying to manipulate you. It also gives you the upper hand in negotiations, arguments, or any situation where control matters. One thing I learned early in my career is that emotions are contagious. If you stay calm, you influence the people around you to do the same. If you lose control, chaos spreads quickly. That's why leaders with real strength don't just focus on their own composure. They use it to stabilize the whole environment. When you walk into a room with quiet confidence, you set the tone. People notice it. They adjust their behavior accordingly. If you've been relying on aggression to assert yourself, it might feel strange to step back and operate from quiet confidence. But you'll quickly see how much more effective it is. You'll stop wasting energy on proving yourself and start directing it toward actually achieving your goals. You'll attract better relationships because people who value mutual respect will be drawn to you. And the ones who only respond to drama or intimidation will fade away, which is exactly what you want. Quiet confidence also allows you to see situations more clearly. When you're not caught up in the need to be right or to dominate, you can assess the facts without ego getting in the way. This makes your decisions sharper and your actions more impactful. In dangerous or high-stakes moments, that clarity can be the difference between success and failure. Building this kind of strength requires self-awareness. You have to recognize when your desire to prove yourself is coming from insecurity, and you have to be willing to let go of the need for external approval. You also need to be comfortable with people underestimating you, because quiet confidence often means they won't see you coming until it's too late. That's not a weakness. It's an advantage. The most effective people I've ever met had no need to broadcast their power. They let their results speak. They knew that real respect comes from consistency, not from making noise. You don't remember them for what they shouted. You remember them for what they achieved and how they carried themselves while doing it. That's the kind of strength that lasts, the kind that doesn't burn out, and the kind that commands genuine respect. When you stop trying to prove you're strong and start simply being strong, everything changes. You no longer depend on other people's reactions to validate you. You stop wasting time on meaningless confrontations, and you gain the kind of control over yourself that no one can take away. That is strength at its highest level. Unshakable, steady, and absolutely undeniable. Resilience is a muscle you build daily. It doesn't come from reading about it or wishing for it. It comes from facing discomfort over and over until what used to break you no longer even makes you flinch. People often think resilience is something you either have or you don't, like a natural talent. That's not true. Resilience is earned through experience, discipline, and a willingness to endure. It's built in the moments when things get hard and you choose to keep moving instead of giving up. When I was working in the Secret Service, resilience wasn't optional. It was survival. We trained for long hours in extreme conditions, running on little sleep, sometimes in dangerous environments. There was no option to quit just because we were tired or sore. If you stopped, you didn't just let yourself down. You let down the team, and you put lives at risk. That kind of pressure forces you to develop a mental toughness that most people never tap into because they quit long before they reach that breaking point. But here's the thing, every single one of us has that capacity. The difference is whether you're willing to go through the discomfort it takes to build it. Resilience is like strength training for your mind. If you go to the gym and lift light weights that never challenge you, your muscles won't grow. The same goes for your mental and emotional strength. If you avoid every challenge, protect yourself from every difficulty, and seek comfort at all costs, you stay weak. But when you choose to face challenges head on, when you endure failure and keep going, you're adding weight to your mental workout. Every time you get back up, you're stronger than before. The problem is that most people wait for life to force them to be resilient instead of training for it daily. They wait for the crisis, and then they're shocked when they don't know how to handle it. Resilience should be a habit, not a reaction. You build it by doing hard things on purpose. That might mean holding yourself to higher standards even when nobody's watching. It might mean having uncomfortable conversations instead of avoiding them. It might mean taking on responsibilities that stretch your limits. Each time you do something that challenges you, you're reinforcing the belief that you can handle more than you thought. Failure is a critical part of this process. A lot of people are terrified of failing, so they avoid trying in the first place. But failure isn't the opposite of resilience. It's the training ground for it. When you fail and then figure out what went wrong and try again, you strip away the fear of failure. You realize that failing didn't destroy you. It just taught you something. That's when you start becoming unstoppable, because the fear that holds most people back no longer has power over you. Resilience also comes from controlling your self-talk. The way you speak to yourself in difficult moments determines whether you break or push through. If your inner voice tells you, "I can't do this," or "this is too much," your body will believe it. But if you train yourself to say, "I can handle this," or "one more step," you keep moving. That mindset shift doesn't happen overnight. It's something you practice daily until it becomes automatic. Another key to building resilience is perspective. You have to understand that most of what you're going through is temporary. Challenges feel permanent in the moment, but when you look back, you'll see that they were just seasons in your life. Reminding yourself that this too shall pass helps you endure the hard moments without letting them consume you. This is how you keep your emotions in check and avoid making impulsive decisions that you'll regret later. In my career, I saw people crumble under pressure not because they were physically weak, but because they never trained their minds to keep going when everything felt impossible. I also saw people who weren't the fastest, strongest, or most talented, but they outlasted everyone else simply because they refused to quit. That's the real power of resilience. It levels the playing field. It allows you to outperform people who might have more natural ability, simply because you're willing to keep going when they give up. You can start building this in small ways every single day. Wake up earlier than you want to. Push yourself to finish the workout when you want to stop. Have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Stick to a commitment even when it's inconvenient. Every time you follow through despite discomfort, you're reinforcing your ability to endure. The truth is, life will hit you. You will face loss, rejection, betrayal, and setbacks. You can't avoid that. But if you've trained yourself to keep moving forward no matter what, those hits won't knock you down for long. You'll adapt faster, recover quicker, and keep your focus when other people are falling apart. That's the difference between people who survive and people who crumble under the same circumstances. Resilience doesn't mean you don't feel pain, frustration, or fear. It means you don't let those feelings dictate your actions. You acknowledge them, but you keep moving anyway. And every time you do, you add another layer to your armor. Over time, that armor becomes so strong that no matter what life throws at you, you know you'll handle it. That's the kind of unshakable confidence that can only be built through daily practice, through choosing challenge over comfort, and through refusing to quit when it matters most. Stop outsourcing your protection. The moment you hand over the responsibility for your safety, your boundaries, and your well-being to someone else, you put yourself in a dangerous position. Too many people live under the illusion that someone will always be there to step in when things get tough. They believe that if trouble comes, someone stronger, more experienced, or more capable will handle it. That belief leaves them exposed, vulnerable, and dependent. In my time as a Secret Service agent, I learned quickly that no one is coming to save you in the split second when danger strikes. Even in a team of highly trained professionals, each of us had to be ready to act immediately. You don't have time to look around for help when someone crosses a line or a situation turns bad. You have to know how to respond, and you have to trust yourself to do it. That self-reliance doesn't just happen. It's built through preparation, awareness, and a decision to take ownership of your own safety. When you outsource your protection, you're sending a message that you're not in control. It might not be intentional, but it's there. You're saying, I trust others to make sure I'm okay more than I trust myself. That mindset opens the door for exploitation. People who prey on others look for those who are dependent. They know that if you can't or won't stand up for yourself, you're easier to control. This doesn't just apply to physical danger. It's the same in emotional, financial, and social situations. If you rely on someone else to speak up for you, defend your worth, or make your choices, you've already given away your power. Taking back that power means developing the skills, mindset, and confidence to protect yourself. That starts with awareness. Pay attention to your surroundings, read the energy in the room, and notice when something feels off. Too many people ignore their instincts because they don't want to seem rude or paranoid, but your instincts are one of the most powerful tools you have. They're the result of millions of years of human survival, and they exist for a reason. The earlier you notice something's wrong, the more time you have to act. Next is preparation. In the physical sense, that might mean learning basic self-defense, carrying the tools you need to protect yourself, and staying physically capable. In the mental and emotional sense, it means setting clear boundaries, knowing how to say no without apology, and refusing to tolerate disrespect. It's the combination of these physical and psychological defenses that makes you a harder target. Some people avoid this responsibility because they think it's intimidating or uncomfortable. They don't want to imagine worst-case scenarios, so they choose to believe those scenarios will never happen. That's a dangerous gamble. You don't prepare for something because you want it to happen. You prepare so you're ready if it does. The best outcome is you never have to use your skills. But if the moment comes, you'll be glad you have them. Another aspect of self-protection is understanding that it's not selfish to put yourself first when your safety or well-being is at stake. Too many people, especially women, are taught to prioritize politeness over self-preservation. They hesitate to speak up, move away, or confront someone because they don't want to make a scene. But the truth is, it's better to risk offending someone than to risk your safety. Strong boundaries might make some people uncomfortable, but they also make it clear that you're not someone who can be pushed around. When you stop outsourcing your protection, your confidence changes. You walk differently. You speak differently. You no longer wait for someone else to step in because you know you can handle yourself. This doesn't mean you become reckless or aggressive. It means you become prepared and intentional. You move through the world with a quiet assurance that says, I'm not an easy target. People pick up on that. Just like predators in nature avoid the animal that looks alert, humans avoid the person who looks like they won't be caught off guard. This shift also changes the way you handle relationships. If you've been relying on others to protect or defend you, you may have accepted dynamics where they hold power over you. When you become self-reliant, those dynamics stop working. You're no longer easy to manipulate or control because you don't need anyone to rescue you. You can still appreciate support from others, but it's a choice, not a necessity. That's the difference between partnership and dependency. Taking responsibility for your own protection also sharpens your decision-making. You become more selective about the environments you put yourself in, the people you trust, and the situations you engage with. This isn't about living in fear. It's about being intentional and aware. You stop leaving your safety to chance, and you start shaping your life in a way that minimizes risk and maximizes your control. The more you take ownership of your protection, the more empowered you feel in every other area of life. You're no longer waiting for someone else to step up, and you're no longer dependent on outside approval or intervention. You set the tone for how you're treated, and you enforce it yourself. That's the kind of strength that commands respect without you ever having to demand it. And it starts with a decision to stop outsourcing your safety, your voice, and your boundaries, and to take full control of them yourself. Kindness and toughness are not opposites. They are two sides of the same coin. Too often, people believe that in order to be respected, you must strip away compassion, warmth, or empathy. On the other side, some believe that being kind means never standing your ground, never saying no, and never putting your needs first. Both are wrong. The truth is, the strongest people you will ever meet are the ones who can balance the softness of kindness with the steel of toughness. Keenness without toughness can leave you open to exploitation. If you give endlessly, always saying yes, always accommodating, there will be people who take and take without giving back. Your good heart becomes a tool for someone else's advantage. This doesn't mean you stop being kind. It means you set the terms for how you give. Toughness is what guards your kindness. It's the filter that ensures your generosity is directed toward those who value it and not those who drain it. Toughness without kindness can make you hard to approach. It can isolate you. People may see you as cold, intimidating, or unreachable. Yes, you might command respect, but you might also lose genuine connections along the way. True influence doesn't come from fear alone. It comes from trust. And trust is built through compassion, empathy, and understanding. That's where kindness comes in. It opens the door, allows people to see your humanity, and makes your strength relatable. Balancing the two means understanding that kindness is a choice, not an obligation. You choose it to be kind because it aligns with your values, not because you fear rejection or conflict. Toughness ensures that when kindness is not reciprocated, you can walk away without resentment. It allows you to give without losing yourself in the process. I've seen this balance at play in high-pressure, high-stakes situations. In my career, I worked with leaders who could command a room with their authority, yet still take a moment to look someone in the eye and ask how they were doing. That combination made people want to follow them, not because they had to, but because they respected and trusted them. On the flip side, I've seen individuals who operated with pure toughness, never showing any warmth. They got results, but they also left behind a trail of resentment and resistance. For many women, finding this balance can be challenging because society often sends mixed messages. You're told to be nice, agreeable, and accommodating, yet also told to be strong, assertive, and independent. The truth is, you don't have to choose. You can say no with a smile. You can deliver hard truths with compassion. You can be both empathetic and uncompromising. That's the sweet spot where people respect you and feel safe around you at the same time. Kindness paired with toughness also protects you from guilt. The guilt that often comes when you enforce your boundaries. When you know your intentions are good, when you know you act from a place of integrity, saying no stops feeling selfish. It becomes an act of self-respect. And here's the thing, when you respect yourself, others follow that lead. People mirror the standard you set. One of the most powerful ways to practice this balance is through communication. How you say something is just as important as what you say. Toughness means being direct and honest. Kindness means delivering that truth in a way that preserves dignity. For example, instead of saying, "I don't have time for you," you can say, "I wish I could help, but I have to focus on my priorities right now." The message is the same. You're setting a limit, but the delivery maintains respect. It's also about how you handle conflict. Toughness means you won't allow someone to cross a line. Kindness means you won't humiliate them in the process. You can shut down toxic behavior without lowering yourself to the same level. This isn't about being passive. It's about choosing your battles and responding with intention rather than reacting out of emotion. The balance of kindness and toughness also makes you a better leader, friend, and partner. People feel safe knowing you won't be walked over, but they also know you won't use your strength to dominate or belittle. They can trust that your decisions are fair, even if they don't always like them. That combination inspires loyalty, not fear. In the end, it's about self-awareness. You have to know your natural tendencies, whether you lean more toward kindness or toughness, and consciously work to develop the other side. If you tend to be overly kind, practice setting small boundaries and holding them. If you tend to be overly tough, practice listening more, showing empathy, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Over time, you'll find that the two qualities don't just coexist, they strengthen each other. When you master this balance, you no longer worry about being too soft or too hard. You know that you can stand firm in your convictions while still showing compassion. You can care deeply without being controlled, and you can protect yourself without building walls so high that no one can reach you. That's real strength, strength that is respected, trusted, and above all, unshakable. Strength is not something you are born with. It is something you build, choice by choice, moment by moment. And becoming a strong woman in today's world is not about being hard for the sake of it or pretending you don't feel emotions. It's about choosing to rise above the things that would keep you small, quiet, or dependent. It's about knowing that softness without boundaries leads to exploitation, but toughness without kindness leads to isolation. Real strength is the ability to live in that middle ground where you can be empathetic yet firm, compassionate yet unshakable, approachable yet respected. Life will give you plenty of opportunities to practice this. Every time you have to say no to something that doesn't serve you, you strengthen your self-respect. Every time you refuse to allow someone to treat you with less dignity than you deserve, you reinforce your boundaries. And every time you choose to show kindness when you could just as easily shut down, you show yourself and the world that your strength is not rooted in fear but in confidence. Too many people confuse being soft with being good. They think saying yes to everything and everyone makes them more likable, but in reality, it just makes them easier to take advantage of. Others think being tough means shutting people out, staying guarded, and never showing vulnerability. But that kind of armor eventually becomes a cage. The real goal is balance, being able to give without being drained, and being able to protect yourself without closing yourself off from the people and opportunities that could change your life for the better. Your strength will be tested in subtle ways too. It's not always the big confrontations that matter most. Often, it's the small daily decisions that shape you. It's choosing to speak up in a meeting when your voice is shaking. It's walking away from someone who refuses to treat you well, even if you love them. It's refusing to apologize for taking up space or for having standards. These are the quiet moments that build resilience like bricks stacked one by one, until you've built a foundation no one can shake. Understand this. Strength doesn't have to be loud. You don't have to shout, intimidate, or prove your worth to anyone. Some of the strongest women I have ever met speak softly but carry an undeniable presence. People respect them not because they demand it, but because they embody it. They are unafraid to make hard decisions, but they do it with grace. They are willing to stand alone if that's what integrity requires, but they never lose their humanity in the process. This kind of strength also changes the way you see yourself. You stop asking for permission to live the way you want. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You start making decisions based on your values instead of your fears. You understand that you don't need everyone to approve of you. You just need to be able to look in the mirror and respect the woman looking back. That's when you realize you've stopped being a soft woman and started being a strong one. And let's be clear, strength is not about never feeling hurt, scared, or insecure. It's about feeling those things and not letting them control your actions. It's about knowing you can face discomfort and still move forward. It's about refusing to let fear dictate your choices. Every single time you push through something that scares you, you take a piece of that fear's power and claim it for yourself. That's how you grow. You also learn to protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. You stop pouring yourself into relationships, jobs, or situations that only drain you. You realize that your time and attention are valuable resources, and you spend them wisely. You stop running after people who make you feel small. Instead, you stand still and let the right people recognize your worth. That's toughness, but it's also kindness to yourself. The woman who is both kind and tough doesn't live life on defense. She lives on purpose. She doesn't react to everything thrown her way. She chooses what's worth her energy. She knows how to disarm with warmth, but also how to draw a line in the sand. People may not always like her, but they will respect her. And most importantly, she will respect herself. There will always be those who want you to be softer so they can have more control. And there will always be those who will tell you that being tough makes you too much. Let them talk. You are not here to fit neatly into anyone's comfort zone. You are here to be the kind of woman who commands her own life, who blends compassion with authority, who refuses to be underestimated. You are here to show that you can be gentle without being fragile and powerful without being cruel. And when you live this way, you don't just change how people treat you, you change how you treat yourself. You stop second-guessing your instincts. You trust your judgment. You become your own advocate, your own protector, your own source of strength. You walk into every room knowing you have nothing to prove and everything to offer. That is the kind of woman who inspires others, not by what she says, but by who she is.